sort of realistic competition for a mid-season international. Again, where's the international game progressed since he's been able to chiefly focus upon that? So I can't do the same as what I did when he left the RFL. Basically.
Fair enough.
I think that's totally fine. I think the individual World Cups and the way that 2021 is looking, they are successful events, but as you say, they're kind of slightly divorced, aren't they, in terms of their structure and the way that they were organised. So their success is slightly different to International Rugby League in its widest sense. We'll let's move on in every way.
I hope he enjoys his retirement, and his retirement is that complete retirement from our game.
Yes.
Shall we move on to lighter news than Nigel Wood? Oh crap, we can't. This week in coronavirus started on the 28th of April, when news emerged that French clubs Catalan Dragons and Toulouse Olympique will not be able to host matches until September after the national government put a ban on sporting events. Prime Minister Edouard Philippe confirmed plans to ease the country's lockdown measures on May the 11th, but confirmed sport, including behind closed door sport, wouldn't continue until September. Obviously, this puts a huge logistical obstacle in place for Super League, for the Championship, for any sense of normal league resumption, and any idea of fair promotion and relegation as well, because of these kind of two clubs being very skewed in how they can operate now going forward.
Yeah, it raises massive questions. Quite separate to our complications about the potential for it restarting. So I would hope we'd had a heads up about this, and that's one of the reasons we haven't been able to say anything yet, because we're waiting for places like France and Canada to confirm what their picture is. And
I do think Catalans and Toulouse will be able to go to the French government and say we're a special case, and kind of make that clear. So that maybe something different might be able to happen there. And Bernard Gauch has said he'll get them to come over to England to play as many games as they need to in England for that period to get the competition going again as well. So there's people wanting to find solutions, which is a positive.
I mean, there are solutions. The Tour de France is going to start in August. And they're going to make it happen, even though nominally they can't start until September. So there are always ways around things, but you need to be pressing the right, pushing on the right doors, don't you?
But similarly, I was reading today that it looks like the NFL, when their season starts, aren't going to plan international series games for the 2020 season.
They're definitely off, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of another thing that's suggesting the international sporting landscape might have to be not work the same for the rest of 2020, so that's a disappointment. So there's things there to work out. Something that maybe seems sensible is the deadline for clubs to tell off-contract players whether they plan to retain them or not has been moved out from the 1st of May to the 26th of June for full-time players, and to September for part-time players in the lower leagues. What this hasn't done is stop players from being able to negotiate with other clubs if they want to leave the club they're at, and it's not stopping clubs going after other players as well.
It kind of feels like they've done half the job. You can go and poach other players, and if those other players want to come, then you've got another 6 weeks in which to then negotiate with them, and then you can tell your players you don't want them.
I know. I'm still trying to work out who it benefits, Sarah. Because like if I was a player, would I want to be able to go and negotiate a deal with anyone right now? And obviously the clubs will be telling their prized assets, Wigan will be talking to, I don't know, Sean O'Loughlin, even though he was meant to be retiring, or
well, we've got quite a lot out of
contract. We'll be talking to Jamie Shaw, won't we? And the more prized assets, the clubs will be talking to. Players will know where they stand, but it kind of means some players can actually set themselves up potentially to be in a better bargaining position, whereas others might have liked the the certainty of knowing, do they have to go and look for another club or not? It's very strange. I don't know who it benefits or not, but it seems sensible, obviously, that administrative timelines get pushed out at a time where there's no people to do the administration at the clubs.
Yeah,
I mean, I would argue what it does in terms of who it strengthens is the hand of any NRL team who's interested in certain players. Because they're going to be back playing, and probably, all things being equal, they've got a little bit more financial certainty, and certain players here who might be tempted to go over, they've certainly got an incentive to do it now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Maybe so. Yeah. Maybe so. Certainly. Yeah.
Because they've got TV deals agreed, they've got a schedule that looks like it might be okay, and things like that. If they're how can any Super League club make any kind of offer to any player at the moment?
And realistically as well, what will have changed by waiting until the 26th of June to send these letters, other than they might have staff out of furlough to actually process the letters?
Yeah, they might have an idea what the
type them.
Look like.
Yeah. The other big news, obviously, on the 28th of April came out that the NRL will restart as a 20-round competition on the 28th of May, with the grand final to be played on the 25th of October. It was confirmed by Rugby League Commission Chairman Peter V'landys, who's made a big political play for himself, hasn't he, during this period. He made the announcements following a period of consultation with broadcast partners, clubs and key stakeholders. The first 2 rounds of the competition that have already been played will be counted, and the current competition ladder will remain in place when the games resume. Under the 20-round format, teams will play 5 opposition clubs twice ahead of the playoff series. So obviously that's down from they normally would play not quite everyone twice, but nearly everyone twice, and have the bye weeks and stuff. The competition draw will be determined in the current weeks. Include also the timing of state and origin is still to be discovered, but it's likely to take place after the grand final. And given that the first Ashes test is also set to take place a week after the Australian grand final, it does seem that the Ashes is hugely in doubt.
Yes, in a shock to nobody, unfortunately. It was always going to be the first thing that they were happy to get rid of, because any excuse and they don't come. We all know that. So,
I mean, there's still the question as well about whether that sort of international travel would be viable. I mean,
yeah, of course,
quarantines that may be in place and that sort of thing. You don't know. So, pinning your hopes on an Ashes series this year was maybe a little bit. Maybe it's a good time to bring in what Alan Walker got in touch to say, actually, because he was talking about the Ashes in 2020, and his quote was Rimmer talking shit. So he said, now the NRL season is just about set, Rimmer needs to accept that the Ashes are off and plan accordingly. The NRL are doing Origin instead. You can argue the pros and cons, but it's set and isn't going to change for the Ashes. The RFL need to wake up and get planning to ensure that the World Cup in 2021 goes well in a congested season of sport, and stop pretending that the Ashes isn't definitely off. I get where Alan's coming from, and I agree with what he's saying. I'm not sure that the RFL are kind of thinking any different to Alan is either, but maybe the public portrayal is slightly different.
Yeah, obviously there's things they can't say in public yet. Because I'm sure they've still got the contracts in place with the grounds and all that kind of stuff. So, they've got to be careful what they say in public. But yeah, I think everyone knows that it's extremely unlikely.
Yeah, Sarah, what sort of percentage chance do you reckon of the Ashes happening this year?
What are the odds for slim to none? What percentage would that be?
I'd say below 15, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
What happened on the 29th of April, Alan?
Derek Beaumont revealed on Rugby League Backchat the Super League clubs have proposed a 13-team competition in 2020, but that to then relegate 2 teams the following year. The RFL are yet to make a decision on promotion and relegation at the end of the season, amongst many other things. Although there are growing calls from within Super League to not relegate aside from the top flight in Turkey's not voting for Christmas news. No surprise there.
Do we think that this is just a weird way to get around it, this 13-team thing, when really any poll that anyone, ourselves included, puts out there before or during the coronavirus situation is fans want a 14-team Super League anyway. So why are we talking too much about these convoluted ways of getting around it for next year? Bring 2 up, start again from the year after. You've got your 14-team Super League that the fans seem to want. Sarah?
Well, everyone seems to want a 14-team Super League. You know, for years and years, everyone said that 14 teams is the optimum number. Gives you a 26-match, all play all twice, and then, you know, you can stick whatever extra silly matches you want in.
I think the last 2 or 3 years of a competitive top echelon of the Championship has made people believe that 14 teams is doable, hasn't it?
Yeah. And yeah, this year, I mean, as much as I'd like to see Toronto / Hull KR going down and all the rest of it, why not? In fact, let's get rid of them both. No, you know, if
there's different ways to get rid of a team, I think. All are on the table at the moment, aren't they? In fact, I think they're more likely to go out of Super League through other reasons than relegation.
Yeah, but what I was, you know, for years people have been talking about this 14-team Super League, but nobody's really been able to work out a way of engineering it. And actually, we've kind of got it laid on a plate if, you know, without, do you know what I mean? And you can blame something else without somebody having to make a decision. Does that make sense?
It sort of falls on no one's neck that we're going back to 14 teams after 7 years after abandoning 14 teams, sort of thing. You're right. It doesn't fall on anyone's neck, does it? You're right.
But I think, you know, if we go to 14 teams, let's have a sensible league where we play everyone twice. We don't need additional fixtures because then you've got your playoffs and everything else. And it's actually a way of going back to that, you know, old-fashioned way of everyone plays everyone.
Yeah, which is appealing to a lot of the rugby league public, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, you know, as a team who was relegated because you decided to get rid of 2 rather than 1 in 2014, you decided in 2013/14 that you couldn't afford it. My question now is, is the structure any different now? And the answer to that question is no, probably not.
The argument to why we could afford 13 teams at least is that Toronto are taking nothing out of the central pot still. So if they can afford to keep themselves going and not take anything out of the central funding pot, then theoretically we've got the funding for 12 teams there, not 11. And the 11 clubs would have to give up a little bit of what extra they took. So there's your 13, and then I suppose it's how you get your 14 or what have you. I agree, Al.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, without getting into the intricacies of the fact that we didn't get any central funding in 2014 either. But
where's the fairness in promotion? Where's the fairness in promotion? If we're saying relegation's unfair, where is the fairness in promotion? In reality, I know people talk about, well, these championship clubs have invested a lot to get promoted. Well, no, they've gambled a lot to get promoted because only one of them goes up anyway. It's not like in Super League where 11 of them are safe and one of them's unlucky or whatever. In the Championship, one of them gets lucky at the end of the day. So if 5 clubs have thrown a load of money in to get promoted, 4 of them aren't getting promoted anyway. So, you know, as we've seen in years gone by, when Toronto didn't go up, when further into the past Featherstone weren't able to go up when they wanted to, and you know, and things like that. So why even are we talking about promoting a club? Why not actually next year have a shorter 12-team season, because we've got the excuse to try it, and like Sarah says, go back to a more simple kind of structure without so many repeat fixtures, and actually it means that we definitely find a way to get the World Cup on, because the season will be able to end well in time, even if the effects of this year push in, so we have to delay our off-season, and then have a 12-team Super League next year with the same clubs as this year, because we're saying promotion and relegation seems to be a bit unfair, because there's no way of determining the fairness if the competitions aren't going to run as they would have run, and I don't see how they can.
No, I mean, my thought is that you might you might have to keep it as a status quo. But the sooner you can make that call, the better, because then you can start to plan for it.